Before I get started on the video, I just wanted to give you a summary of Isis's video. You know, she had a platform about how to become a trophy wife, and she recently came out with a video called I Married a Monster, where she details how she found out that her husband was assaulting their girls. I'm assuming it's their girls together. I don't know how long she was married. And finding out, going to the hospital, reporting it to the police, and really not knowing what to do next. So in this video, I really want to go through from my clinical expertise, where I am a licensed psychologist. I specialize in working with children who have been assaulted sexually by friends, family members, even their fathers, and even working with adults who have had this history in their childhood on how do you heal, how do you move on. But most importantly, I think for now, we can talk about what are the signs to look for? What are the things in you that you might need to work on so that you don't attract somebody like that? And when I say attract, I do understand that you can walk outside and anybody can be attracted to you, but really who you entertain and in the end, who you decide to marry. Because after watching a couple of her videos, I think there were so many red flags that she just wasn't aware of because of her own background and history. So I did leave a comment on Miss Isis's video when I first saw it. I think I saw it day 1 or day 2 when it had 6,000 views. It's now going viral. If I was her therapist, I would never have recommended that she make this video. But when people make public content because of where they're at, I think we can learn from their experience. That maybe that's the point in just getting it out and then being able to inform other people and help other people. Her transparency across, I think, multiple of her videos is amazing. I don't know if it's transparency or poor boundaries, probably poor boundaries, but I think it can be helpful. So I was looking at a couple of the other videos that people made and looking at the comments to see how are people framing this discussion. And there's 2 I wanted to highlight that will inform how I do the rest of this video. So one lady says, I've noted this for years. I think she's talking about stepfathers taking advantage of children. And, research shows that one of the worst predictors for children's health and wellness is having a stepfather in the home. There's also research that says a mother's happiness is one of the best indicators for the outcome of the child. And so when you put those 2 things together, an abusive stepfather, a mother who's not happy because her kids have been traumatized, then you get traumatized kids that probably will have some emotional problems later on. So she's noticed this for years. She said, also, Shera did advise women not to mention that you have kids and even lie about having kids when dating in hypergamy. We're going to talk about hypergamy. I'm going to touch on Shera a little bit. We're going to talk about transactional relationships, marriages, the idea of being a trophy wife, which is probably glamorized sex work. Then I have one other point. Oh, and being dependent, and then on being assaulted in marriage, that is a thing. So anyway, she got a lot of flack, Shera, and criticism for suggesting that too. Lastly, I feel so sorry for the young woman whose children were SA'd by their own father. How can someone vet for that when there's no criminal record or obvious predator behavior? I have an answer for that. Can we just give her props for actually believing her children? I definitely do. So I have definitely heard over and over again from clients that I've worked with, people I know in real life, mom didn't know. She knew, she just didn't want to face the truth and do anything about it. This is what happens when women are desperate for validation from a man, desperate to keep an image, and afraid of actually dealing with the negative outcomes. The next comment says, as a woman who has experienced marital rape, in the moment, you don't equate the 2. In the moment, it's annoying, maybe a little scary, but in the moment, it's more like this effing guy is the worst. Can't even take a no. You recognize it is not what you want to do, but are now being made to do it. But being as it's with your husband, who you give it willingly to all the time, it really took me time after the end of the relationship to fully comprehend that the reason I was scared, and because it was rape. It was. And how stupid I felt realizing it's so late. Staying after, he assaulted her because I didn't think that counted, which I think is common, especially in a world where women are not valued. I think the results of the election kind of show women are not put equal to men, that our wants and needs are not valued as being as important as a man. And so we are indoctrinated into this system, this patriarchy that says we're supposed to be of service to men, that we're supposed to depend on men. And when we believe these old paradigms, we can get stuck in situations like this. And everything is amplified when money is involved, like a lot of money is involved. But this is definitely a situation that can happen with very little money, a man with very little money to a man with a lot of money. A lot of it is not the money per se. It is the image. It is the I'm partnered. It's I'm married. It's like the worshiping of the idea of being a wife versus actually being in a loving marriage. So the short answer for how to vet a man, and then you can add on whatever you want there of good character, of high value. The short answer is to be what it is that you would like to attract. Now, in the case of Isis, I think she thought that she was in a really good place when she wasn't. So I'll get into, all of her own red flags that would lead her to be in a relationship like this. But mostly, like most of my channel is about working on yourself. I'm not married yet, and so I don't really advise on like how to run your marriage. I think that the health of the marriage is going to be based on the individual people coming together. And so the better you are, the happier you are, the more you're in touch with God, your intuition, working on yourself and actually being happy with yourself and your life, the better your relationship will be, or it will end. So based on Isis's video on how she became a wife so quickly, right? I think it's like, she puts it as less than a year, but it seemed like a few weeks of actually knowing this man to the point of being engaged and married. I don't know if you felt the same thing as me watching the video. I have a lot of intuition, a lot of clinical expertise when I'm watching these things, and I was like scared, right? I was like, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah, like she's talking about this story of how she met him, how they got together, how they moved in, and she sounds so happy, like describing it, but all I am is scared for her. And so this was a year ago when she made the video. I don't know how long they've been married, but I want to point out some things in her video that showed like his red flags and also her own things to work on. And in that video, she has a picture of them together on their wedding day. And if you can see what I see, like he looks like a creep. He does. He looks like a creep. I don't know all the things. I'm not like clairvoyant or any of those things. I've just worked with a lot of people over many, many years. And so when I see, right, through somebody's eyes, like, I don't know, girl. I would say danger, girl. No. So let's go through some of the things that Isis shared that I think would be helpful for you to, if you have some of these qualities, to work on those things yourself. But also when you're vetting a man, I do encourage vetting a man based on good character. So what you focus on will increase, and it's not a good idea to check to see, is this a predator? Right? You're not looking to see, is this a predator? You're looking to see, is this a man of good character? Is this a man of God? Is this somebody who's trustworthy, who has integrity? That's what you're really checking for. Because if he is those good things, then of course he's not a predator. And there's a difference, right, between like being charismatic and putting on a good show or a mask and actually genuinely having good character. You get to see that by watching how people interact over time with different people, especially people who don't need them or can't do anything for them. So I have like a long list here because I wrote down every time she said something wild and crazy, right? So let's talk about like what is it like about Isis that might make her susceptible to being preyed upon, right? Like somebody focusing on and viewing her as somebody that they could take advantage of, right? None of this is her fault. I don't want to give blame. I am never victim blaming in this. It is definitely the man's fault. He belongs in prison. If somebody beat him up, what I'm saying, like do all those things. It's never your fault that you are assaulted. It's not your fault, right? What is your responsibility and what you can take accountability for is ignoring the signs that you could have left earlier or avoided maybe more harm. And then the things in yourself that you need to work on to then attract the person that you are really wanting to love and be loved by. So Isis tells her story. I think she said she was the product of rape, and that she was molested when she was younger. She also got pregnant as, I think, a 18-year-old on purpose, and then had her second child a few years later. I am concerned when young girls get pregnant on purpose. I got pregnant when I was 17. It was not planned. Okay, that's another level of irresponsibility. But when young women plan a pregnancy that young, I think a lot of the motive is I want someone to love me, right? Versus I really want to have kids and take care of a life. I think it's from a place of lack. versus a place of, say, ignorance, like when it comes to me, or like la la la, or, you know, like the teenage magical thinking that bad things can't happen to me because I know everything, right? When teenagers like literally know less than nothing. So this is part of her history. I could go on and on about what types of families create environments where kids can be taken advantage of. That's not for this video. Maybe in another video, but I don't tend to really talk about kids being assaulted on my channel. This is more so for like adults who are dating and vetting men, right? She also discussed, you know, having low self-esteem at the time that she was getting pregnant and not realizing it at the time. I think in present day, she'll reflect on this moment and also say, I didn't realize I was XYZ, because things, you know, things will come out, right? When she does some self-reflection, she will learn a lot of things. I couldn't understand what she was saying about what her mom wanted her to pursue, a man with a good career, but she was more so interested in guys who were like thugs and had like the swagger and, you know, the status. And then she learned, you know, those guys are not really reliable. I want to change my interest. And so she did. She worked on herself to do that. She then had like a I don't need a man mentality. She had her two boys. She said she was making like over $90,000 a year as a 24-year-old. She was living good, but she had this, again, scarcity mindset that I could do this all by myself. I don't need no man. You know, not just like the neutral, I'm happy with the way my life is, but like a negative, like men are bad, or, you know, they're not going to be worth whatever they're there for. And so I'm just going to avoid relationships, right? This is more an avoiding relationships versus being at peace with life. I wrote lonely and sad while listening to her describe what it was like, realizing that she did want a partner. And, you know, I didn't want to do Christmas by myself, you know, just with my boys. I wanted something more. I just heard lonely and sad. I also wrote that she doesn't know how to vet a high value man, because a lot of the high value man, because I think it's important to also add the high functioning, money for a lot of men, maybe most of them, has been their number one indicator for how great they are, right? When money has never been enough to really decide if a man is high functioning. It's important to have money. We do need a man who can pay for things, because we need money to live and exist and pay our bills. But that cannot be the only factor. And I would discourage anyone from making that the number one factor in how you pick a man. I know a lot of these YouTubers will tell you a man is only good for his money. I am here to argue the opposite, okay? That a man can bring a lot of value. He may not see it, right? And those are not the men you're interested in. But we need a man who understands that his manhood is not only tied to how much he makes. Like, you have to be of good character. You have to be high functioning. You have to bring other emotional well-being things to the relationship, and not just money. I also wrote, I think that Isis had a poor understanding about why men typically move fast. I think it's definitely a red flag when a man is asking you, like her husband asked her on their first date, to be his girlfriend. You might think that, right? You might say, I know this is going to be my wife, or I know this is going to be my husband on the first date. You don't ask them on the first date, because you know that you don't really know them, and that it's important to get to know them. But you could tell a story after, like when you're describing your love story. Oh, I know on the first date I was going to be married to her. I knew, right? But you don't say that. It's highly inappropriate and a sign of really poor boundaries when on a first date you're talking about, I want you to be mine. I don't even know you. This is literally one date. I don't know you. And this is a very like sanitized environment where we're out to a fancy dinner and you have to be on your best behavior. I don't know you. No way, right? And so the way she was explaining why she didn't want to get caught in the girlfriend trap, girl, men who move fast are usually trying to hide their dysfunction, right? Whether they want to take advantage of you, whether they're love bombing you so that they can try to devalue you and make you feel bad so they can feel better about themselves. Or in this case, whether they want to take advantage of children. They want to get you locked in so quickly. So she didn't seem to understand that. She talked about the story of exactly how they got together. It's just, oh, it's a wild story. Again, she's telling this story with a smile. I'm so anxious and nervous for her as I'm listening. I'm like, girl, no, run, run. Okay. So she was in a relationship with a man who she felt obligated to be in the relationship with. Those are her words, not mine, because he was doing nice things for her and spending money on her, doing certain things. She felt like, you know, he had been asking her to be his girlfriend for a while. And so she felt like she had to agree to be his girlfriend. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. But I would also encourage women not to string men along and not to take things from men indefinitely if you have no intention of being in a relationship with them or you don't really like them, right? First 3 months, we're getting to know each other, do all the nice things for me, all of that stuff. But then after that, do you really want to be with this person or no? The minute you feel like you have to be like, I guess I have to give him something, I guess I have to do something, it's a sign that it's probably not a good match and it's time to exit stage left. So that guy, she said, didn't vibe with her kids. Are you noticing a pattern here? She said it looked like he tolerated her kids, but wasn't really interested in like being a supportive role in their life, mostly because he wanted his own kids. And so he didn't really believe in, I guess, raising other kids. Why you didn't this one with kids then, right? So she just left one day. She was living with him. Listen, I'm from the islands. As a Caribbean girl, I ain't living with no man. I'm not living with no man before we get married. I'm not doing it. So she was living with this man. I don't know how, why, whatever. And then she just packed up her things one night and left, right? It sounds scary. Like, why? Why did y'all break up like that? I don't know. It sounds scary. And so the day after she moved out, she got a call from her husband, right? They're not together because she also described like they stopped talking at some point. Why? Why? Maybe because he was not serious? I don't know. But these are the things, like in a typical love story, I don't know. I just, especially when you are actually purposefully dating for marriage, like the guy that fell off on month 1, month 2, when he circles the block at month 4, months later or whatever, I don't want you to give him the time of day. I want a full understanding of why you all stopped talking, because there were probably red flags and a reason for it, that he was probably looking for something different, yada, yada, yada. It's going to come out. So she gets a call from this guy, explains to him how she just ended a relationship and her lease is ending, right? The story is giving desperation. And yes, men sometimes love saving women, but oftentimes are doing it so that they can be in a position of power, control over you, making it so that it would be difficult for you to leave him. I'm just like, girl, my advice to any woman in 2024 is make sure you are secure, not just emotionally, but also financially. Can you take care of yourself? And if you have kids, can you take care of your kids too, comfortably? Can you do it without being desperate? If not, that is what I would want you to focus on before finding a husband. Because a man, if you're marrying a man for money, you are going to lose in the long term. You are. Have y'all seen Shera talk about her man? She don't even like that man. And so if your goal is just to use somebody, imagine the kind of person you have to be to just use somebody, to not view them as human, worth an emotional connection, or spending quality time with. You just want their money. Why don't you just go make your own money? Because it's too hard. There is a way to do it, even for a woman in 2024, moving into 2025. There's a way to do it. And so I would discourage any woman from being so desperate that you would go and live with a man, right? Because then she asked if she could live with him, or he offered. I don't know how it was. I would say, no, this is not even your man. You about to move all your kids in with a man that you don't know, that you're not in a committed relationship with. So it also had me wondering, like, at what point are you introducing your kids to the men in your life, right? I have a year requirement for it. Okay, my current boyfriend, we did not wait a year. We did it much sooner. But this is also a plan for marriage. And a lot of the foundation was set before he ever met my son. I know the trajectory of our relationship. Trust has been built. Time has been spent. Quality time has been spent that I can understand this man and his character in multiple different environments. So we didn't wait a full year, but we waited. You understand what I mean? My son has also never met any other guy I've dated, except when I was engaged. Why are men meeting your children? Why? Unless you're serious. So you're serious after a month, I would strongly discourage. So the man, the husband, told her that he didn't want her to live with him unless he was married. So she's like, okay, well, let's get married then. Do you hear this story? Do you hear how wild this story sounds? Okay. And so then he says, yes, he's serious, yada, yada, yada. Remember, these are people who don't know each other. Less than a year, months, weeks, probably. And she goes and buys him a $300 ring. I don't know why she's telling the story like so enthusiastically. And then she checks the online profile app. I think it was eHarmony. This is where they met. She checks it. Something tells her, I think it's her intuition. And he had recently updated his profile picture, okay? Because he's still slanging, okay? And so she called him after that and told him, it doesn't sound like you're really serious, blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't recommend doing that either. Let a man pursue you, okay? And let's give it some time so that we can have evidence that he's consistent. He says, oh my gosh, I'm so serious. I'm so serious. And then he goes and he really gets a ring and then proposes to her. She makes a point about not liking the ring, but telling us, the audience, I tell my ladies not to focus on the ring. I don't know what the ring was like. I think it was mostly size that she was concerned about. Okay, more evidence for like a superficial way of doing relationships. Like she's saying, I wanted to focus more on the marriage, but she's still telling us one of her first thoughts was the ring is too small. And I would encourage you to work on like that inner world, that inner working, that the ring size, not that important, okay? But on the other hand, I do think it's important for a man to consider what you like. Granted, this man didn't know her, so I'm guessing he didn't know what kind of ring she would like. But if you communicate to your partner what kind of ring you would like, and he gets you the opposite of what he would like, I do think that's a red flag. Because why does he not care about you also liking the ring that you're going to be the one wearing? And then it did sound like she was more focused on being somebody's wife than embodying being a wife and wanting to be able to be showed off to other people as valuable versus viewing herself as valuable. So those are a lot of Isis's, just some concerns I had, toxic signs, listening to her talk about herself and their love story. When it comes to the man, the husband, they have a 20-year age gap. And we can go on and on about age gaps. Not all of them are a sign of control or abuse or icky, not all of them, right? But generally speaking, I think it's the rule that more than, because I like Rebecca Lynn Pope, more than like a 7-year age gap, definitely more than a 10-year age gap. And there are going to be issues with power and control because this person is so much older and has seen so much more of life than you. And then why are you attracted to somebody so old? Like, why are you? Because it's also like this idea that you want somebody that's already established, somebody that has been set in their own ways, somebody that you're not going to grow with necessarily. You're going to follow what they have explained. And you're not going to be like a real partner, which is generally as a young woman, I'm 35, what most of us would actually enjoy in the long term. We don't want to be told what to do. We want to collaborate with somebody. When you're partnering with a man who's 20 years older than you, he's going to tell you what to do. Do you really want to be told what to do? Maybe it's when y'all really want to be trophy wives and have like no real substance in your relationship and just be pretty and open your legs whenever he says so. Maybe that's really what you want. Just run the card as often as you want, and that is your sense of security. I just don't think that's what most women would want, and it's definitely not something I would encourage. On their first date, she said she knew right away that it felt natural and she felt like she knew him already, right? I think those are red flags because what people generally are attracted to is the sense of familiarity. And if she, based on her history and her childhood, is saying these things were not good, I often picked men that were not good for me, I would be concerned about feeling like you already know him because you don't. I think what's happening is a feeling of familiarity or comfort is being elicited, but it's not real, like it's not genuine. What you're picking up on is the same kind of energy that you've been used to. And that's why you feel like you've known him already because you don't know him. And it can be like when people say this natural thing, oh my God, I just felt like, and then they go on these marathon dates and all. If you come from a very loving household, I can see, right? You've done it one time, gone on a marathon date, you've been with this person for 10 years. But if you're the kind of person who, I don't know, I just felt like I knew them, right? And this has happened to you multiple times, girl, run. Please run. You don't know them. And you should be concerned about why you feel so comfortable when this person has not shown you anything. Like Anwar, the dating coach says, I encourage people to start at 0 And then based on what you see, add to the list so that you can get them to 100 before you fully commit to the relationship. You don't know them, and any feeling of familiarity is like an illusion. It's like you're living in a fantasy world. So I talked about him asking her to be his girlfriend. Let's talk about the concept of, being assaulted by your husband in the relationship, because consent is an important thing. In the last 10 years, we've talked more and more about consent. The way consent works is that it can be revoked at any time. And just because you've had a history of sex with your husband does not mean automatically you are going to have it every time. You might not be in the mood. If that's the case, I do encourage exploring that. There may be other things going on. You might be tired. There could be a whole host of reasons for why you're not interested in having sex now, or even after sex has started, you are no longer interested in sex and you would like to discontinue. All of those things should be respected by any man you are in a relationship with. If they're not, I would be strongly concerned, because at one end, sex is about connection, intimacy. At the other end, it's about power and control. It's about the person wanting to feel powerful. It's not so much about enjoying the sex. It's about having domination over another person and making them do things. This is why people abuse kids, because it's like the ultimate domination, right? It's a sick and perverse way of interacting with people and experiencing sex, but we can't act like it's not common enough. And we all know that oftentimes children are the ones that are being taken advantage of. So a man who is going to do that to his woman, and then his wife in their relationship, I haven't seen the video where she talked about this, but a lot of comments were commenting on, how she told stories about how she was assaulted. And I'm imagining she probably was expressing like confusion around it, and maybe not describing it as assault, as what it actually is. But it's definitely a really big red flag about why you should run away from this kind of relationship, because the theme is going to be about power and control, and eventually it will look like abuse. It's already abusive, right? When somebody is doing those things. But then you can imagine that finances are going to be a part of how he controls, and that maybe physical abuse, and then maybe even the assault on the kids will be a part of the increasing worsening of this man being abusive and toxic and need to be in prison. But how did we get here? Like, as a culture, where someone like ISIS can have a whole platform about being a trophy wife, when it is so closely linked to like escort work and sex work, and hypergamy has just taken off here on YouTube, and women like Shera, who don't look happy to me, right? They look kind of real sinister and dark feminine energy, are advising women on how to go about life. I do understand, right? Some people are going to engage in sex work, but I want you to reflect on why a woman or a boy or man would engage in sex work. Nobody wants to just be touched by somebody that they don't love. You might get used to it because of a traumatic upbringing, but I want you to understand that this is all out of desperation. Like the way hypergamy, because women have always married up, but the way hypergamy has been shaped here on YouTube, where they're talking about going after a man who has money versus focusing on a man who is high functioning or has good character, is a sign of like this glamorization of sex work. I want to tell you that you can have a wonderful man, a partner, someone who loves you and have money. Maybe you're not going to be in the 1% of people who have money, but in the long term, when you live your life day to day, years and years from now, you're going to like this person. You're going to enjoy them because you focus on finding balance in yourself and your relationship. Transactional relationships, wanting to be a trophy wife, those are all signs of desperation. It's a sign that you don't even have your bare minimum needs met. And it's important for you to focus on yourself and be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be as you are looking for a partner, right? It doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect before you find somebody, before you decide to date. But I think it's so helpful for you to be going in the direction of healing and loving yourself, loving other people, so that you can attract something that actually resonates with you and the God inside of you, so that you do not end up having to tell a story like ISIS, where there's all of this traumatic experiences happening, where then you have to confess to the world that the way you were living was a lie. Is it hard to work on yourself? Yes, but it will be worth it in the end. As Maya Angelou would say, it will satisfy your soul. And you are more than just a body for men to access. You are a person who deserves love and respect. You are worthy no matter what you've been through. Like, just for existing, you are worthy. You are good enough. And you can have that mentality as you continue working on yourself. And at some point, you will believe 100% an abundance mindset where you know you don't have to choose between this or that. You can have it all. Maybe not all at the same time, right? But that you can work step by step in your life to get everything that you want. This is what I talk about on my channel because I am invested in helping Black women thrive. And I understand that your surroundings, your circumstances is probably not the best right now, right? If you resonated with Isis, her background, like her childhood history, is probably very tragic, probably very painful. If we heard everything that happened to her when she was a young child. And I know that her story is probably very common, but there is a formula for living a life that is full of joy and peace. Stick around for more of my YouTube videos. Look at my old playlist on how to become a better version of yourself, how to heal, how to thrive, how to be happy. Because I'm here to help. Honestly, I am here to help. So I would love it if you gave this video a like, if you shared it with a woman that you think would resonate with this message and somebody who actually wants to do more and get more from life, including a loving partnership. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and thank you for watching.